This is Newsroom on SABC News. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg in South Africa. I'm Eben Jansen. The show is being streamed live right now on YouTube between 9 and 10 a.m. every day. The entire show is available on our YouTube channel all of the time. Interesting developments in the Oscar Pistorius murder trial will be live at the court shortly. Well, there's some interesting statistics on social media, and then we also look at the release, or ahead to the release, of the much-awaited Nkandla report tomorrow. But first, here are the headlines. Defence advocate Barry Roux will continue to probe police photographer Barend van Staden when the Oscar Pistorius murder trial resumes in Pretoria this morning. Yesterday, Roux questioned van Staden about the selection of photographs he took of the scene at the Blade Runner's residence following the death of Reeva Steenkamp last year. 6 men accused of killing 2 people in gang violence on the Cape Flats on Friday night will appear again in court on Monday. Yesterday, the suspects appeared briefly in camera, as 2 of them are minors aged 16 and 17. The case was postponed for further investigation. A 5-year-old boy wounded during the shooting remains in a critical condition at the Red Cross Children's Hospital. And lawyers for the families of the deceased Marikana miners will this morning argue against the police application for a witness being referred to as Mr. X to present evidence in camera at the Marikana Commission of Inquiry. The crucial witness claims he was among protesting miners that attacked NUM officers and also hacked 2 security guards to death during the unrest in 2012. Now, defence advocate Barry Roux will continue to cross-examine police photographer Barend van Staden at the High Court in Pretoria this morning. Roux is expected to grill van Staden about his conduct while taking pictures of the scene at Oscar Pistorius' residence following the death of Reeva Steenkamp last year. Earlier in the day, van Staden described to prosecutor Garinel details of the scores of photos he had taken of the scene. These included blood spatter on the wall behind the bed, blood spots on the duvet, and a damaged bedroom door. Yesterday, Roux put it to van Staden that he had taken many more photos than the 9 images of Pistorius that appear in the police album. Now, for the latest, let's cross to Griselda Lewis, who is standing by at the North Gauteng High Court. Good morning, Griselda.
A very good morning to you, Eben.
Interesting developments yesterday. Just give us your take on that.
Well, certainly very interesting here when we heard during testimony given by the crime scene photographer Barend van Staden that there were new blood splatter marks that were found on the duvet in Oscar Pistorius' bedroom and also above the headboard. Interestingly, on the side where Reeva Steenkamp was sleeping, also on the bathroom, not on the bathroom door, however, but on Oscar Pistorius' bedroom door, as well as on some of the watches that were found in Oscar Pistorius' bedroom. But now, when you look at the trail that Oscar Pistorius followed, as is indicated during his bail application, Oscar Pistorius went from the bathroom downstairs to carry Reeva Steenkamp's body. So the trail really doesn't add up at this stage, and we're really looking to see what new evidence will come through in this case today. And the only person I think, Eben, would be able to shed some light on this, we're waiting now for the testimony of the blood splatter specialist, Ian van der Nest, who might be able to give some details on the blood spatter and basically how it all got there.
Today, of course, Barend van Staden will continue to be grilled about his conduct. Barry Roux, I'm sure, won't hold back once again.
Oh, absolutely. He certainly has. We're expecting that cross-examination to get underway. And, of course, the pictures to continue to beam inside the court of the crime scene that Barend van Staden found when he was taking those pictures. We've not spotted at this stage June Steenkamp, Reeva Steenkamp's mother. She was here yesterday. You will know she walked out of court when those images were being beamed inside court. She asked one of the members of the ANC Women's League to escort her out. When we spoke to the ANC Women's League a bit later, they had said that June Steenkamp told them that she was very concerned about the images that were beamed in court. She wasn't basically expecting those images to be beamed there. She couldn't basically take it, and also highlighted that her husband, Barry, who remains in Port Elizabeth, cannot take this trial at this stage, and went on to explain how he does not want to see those graphic images that are being beamed inside court.
I'm sure right now everyone's starting to think about, in week 3, starting to think a bit about Oscar taking to the stand. Is there any idea whether that will happen? And do we have some sort of idea if that happened, when?
Well, there's absolutely no indication at this stage if Oscar Pistorius will take to the stand here, but I guess we'll get to know a bit much later in the case at all. No indication at this stage whether, but he does have the right to remain silent. He does have the right not to testify, as you've heard in previous interviews that we've done with the experts that the SABC has been using to try and unpack this trial. So no indication at this stage whether he will testify.
Thank you, Criselda. That's Criselda Lewis outside the North Gauteng High Court, giving us a little update ahead of the trial that starts once again. Well, day 12 it is now. It starts at 9:30 this morning. The Oscar Pistorius trial has drawn the world's attention, so much so that it became a bigger story than the run-up to the 2014 FIFA World Cup and our national elections. Media monitoring group Data Driven Insight has been monitoring the extent of the trial on social media, in newspapers and several other online platforms, even though journalists and broadcasters were stopped from sharing the testimony of pathologist Gert Simon in the dock last week. The conversation hit an all-time high with over 11,000 articles in 1 hour. In studio to talk about the latest statistics, we are joined by Tonya Curry from DDI Africa. Good morning, Tonya. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Eben. Thanks for having us.
Unprecedented interest, I would think, is the word. Is that sort of what the stats tell us?
I've been in media analytics for almost 15 years and I've never seen anything like it. The story is enormous. We're seeing interest from all over the globe. South Africa is number 5 on the list to report against the trial. Number 1 being the USA, is covering it more than anywhere else, followed by Germany. After Germany, we've got Australia and then the UK, and then South Africa comes into the playing field. So it's a massive story, it's a worldwide story, and it doesn't seem to be letting up.
I saw something came out a little bit earlier in the week. I think you guys put out that the word guilty comes up 8 times as often as the word innocent. Very much people have judged this case already, isn't it?
Yeah, look, what we did was we took the statistics and measured how much people mentioned the word guilty in their tweets or in social media or in the news, and then we measured that against the word innocent or not guilty, and we found in the beginning of the exercise it was a 10-to-1 ratio, and today it's sitting at 7.5-to-1 in the favour of guilty.
Now, in terms of social media response and sort of online responses, has any other story in recent time compared to this?
Well, we put it up against, we're trying to find a story bigger than Oscar, and we can't. We've put it up against stories like the World Cup. The World Cup recently announced in Brazil their 99 days countdown. And when it happened here in SA, it was a massive story. And if you compare it to Oscar, Oscar still gets, I think you can see it on the screen, I think over 55% of the coverage against the World Cup. We've also measured it against the elections, against Jacob Zuma, against Julius Malema, against Marikana. And we're finding in South African news only, so that's not social media and not international news, that's our South African news. We find that the Oscar Pistorius trial still accounts for half of the media coverage against those election type stories.
Do you guys have any idea what this means to us, or what does it do for South Africa as a country?
Well, I was chatting to someone yesterday, and they were saying that the impact on South Africa as a brand is not a great one, right? Because we're being portrayed as a country where gunfire is normal life and security is extreme, etc. So there is that element, and of course our justice system is under scrutiny. And also we did an exercise about the SAPS, the police force, and the way they handled the investigation. Yeah. People are using the words like bungled and tampered, etc., and stolen, like one of the watches was stolen in the case. So there's a lot of bad stuff going out to the rest of the world, and I just hope that we can maintain a good level of justice while we're under the spotlight.
What about the justice system? There are no positives that justice is being seen to be done and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I think what is definitely coming across is that it's a first of its kind in South Africa to put so much attention onto our justice system, and I think everybody's getting their homework marked in public, and we're all on our best behaviour. So let's just fingers crossed we'll make it on the world platform.
Sonia, the one thing that's been quite under the spotlight the last week or so has been mainstream media and their conduct.
Yes.
How is it being received at the moment, and how is the mainstream media, for lack of a better word, how has their conduct been received in this case?
I think, well, firstly, the media conduct outside of social media. We had an instance where they weren't allowed to report from the courts. And in that hour, or 2 hours, when they weren't allowed to report, the statistics went shut up about people reporting in the individual capacity. But the South African media has behaved itself, apart from that little incident in the beginning with Michelle Burger's face being put up on the screen when she wasn't allowed to be. I think the judge gave such a stern ruling in that instance and said she wouldn't handle them with soft gloves, I think the term was. Yeah. So, I mean, after that, everybody's been very, very well behaved, and we haven't seen any leaked reports, etc.
So, is there a chance that this trial could even hit higher spikes? Maybe if Oscar takes to the stand, for instance?
I think when Oscar takes to the stand, I believe that will absolutely shoot off the chart. I mean, on day one, we saw over 78,000 new articles written about the trial, and that has dropped over time, as you'd expect for a story of this nature. And yesterday, I think it hit its lowest peak. You can see there on the board, apart from the weekends where there's little press. You can see that the story is generally going down. However, when Oscar takes to the stand, I believe that will completely go off the chart.
And what's the sort of, do we have an idea what the sentiment is? Do people want him to come onto the stand and explain himself and really front up for what he's done?
Yes, I believe so. I believe everybody wants to hear Oscar's side of the story, most people anyway. We also did quite an interesting analysis about the witnesses to date. And we found that Michelle Burger, I mean, she had a massive spike of interest. There it is at the bottom of the screen. She had a massive spike of interest when she was on the stand and got a lot of support from the social media platforms.
Because she was badgered by Barry Rue.
Yes, she really was. And she did really well. I mean, she stood her ground, etc. But we also found that Darren Fresco is what people are talking about as far as witnesses are concerned.
It's not a question of his mates turning on him?
I think there was that element, and all the guns and drama that surrounded Darren Fresco's testimony. Also the fact that he said often the words, "I don't remember" or "I can't remember," and that came up quite a bit in the statistics.
Well, Tanya, we would love you to come back at some stage, maybe next week, when things spike again, and we can have another chat and see what the trends and the stats are showing.
Great.
Thanks once again.
Thanks, Eben. Thanks.
That's Tanya Curie from DDI Africa. That's data-driven insight. Now, let's just recap the story quickly. Defence advocate Barry Rue will continue to probe police photographer Barend van Staden when the Oscar Pistorius murder trial resumes in Pretoria this morning. Yesterday, Rue questioned van Staden about photos he took of the scene at the Blade Runner's residence following the death of Reeva Steenkamp last year. Rue put it to the police photographer that he had taken many more photos than the 9 images of Pistorius that appear in the police album. Van Staden testified that he made a total of 15 photo albums relating to the crime. These included Steenkamp's post-mortem, blood spatter on the wall behind the bed, blood spots on the duvet, and a damaged bedroom door. Earlier, the court heard about Pistorius' obsession with firearms. His firearm dealer, Sean Rens, testified that the Paralympian had ordered 6 firearms from him 3 weeks before he killed Steenkamp. It emerged that as a licensed gun owner, Pistorius knew exactly when he could justifiably use lethal force. Let's just take a quick look at what you are saying about this case on social media. Of course, everyone has an opinion and have passed verdict on the case already. Charlie says the OP trial is receiving saturation coverage, but the Marikana Commission has not attracted the same level of interest. That is the world we live in, Charlie. Jonathan Harold, apparently there's an app devoted to providing you with up-to-the-date information on the Oscar Pistorius trial. I'm sure there are quite a few apps. Greg Atkins says, Oscar trial, all the militaristic terminology, incompetency reinforces the Rambo mentality in irresponsible gun owners. Dismayed gun owner, he says. Luke says, I have nothing but contempt for those who can't hold their judgment on Oscar Pistorius. That is strong words indeed. Look. Aaron Murphy says, blood on the bedroom duvet. Wowzers. Oscar Pistorius, blood on the wall atop the bed headboard. It sounds like two. Double wowzer, he says. I think that's why the whole nation went double wowzer yesterday. At SABC Newsroom, that's where you can send us your comments and we'll put it up on a screen and we'll interact with the pictures. We love pictures. If you've got pictures, send us some of those. Well, after a short commercial break, we'll speak to Professor Shadrack Guto in Pretoria ahead of the release of the long-awaited Nkandla report tomorrow.
Hello and welcome to Network. My name is Sphumelele Zondi.
Currently, we've got 3 apps that we've developed: the Q Marshal app, a commuter app, and a taxi association app.
The Chinese e-commerce company Alibaba Group Holding has decided to pursue an IPO in New York. Safaricom wants to introduce M-Pesa to Kenya's popular matatu industry. This will enable commuters to pay taxi fares using mobile money.
That's Network, Sundays, 7:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. You're still with Newsroom on SABC News. Now, the long-awaited Public Protector report into upgrades at President Jacob Zuma's Nkandla homestead will be released tomorrow. More than 206 million rand was spent on what was described as security upgrades at the president's private home. The ANC, meanwhile, said the report has become a political statement and they will handle it as such. Now, in our Pretoria studio, we're joined by Professor Shadrack Guto, political and legal analyst at UNISA. Good morning, Professor, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much, and good morning to you and the listeners, the viewers, rather.
Professor, do you think the report is, as the ANC states, a political statement?
Well, I think that is a very far-fetched conclusion even before the report is released. The ANC or some people within it who hold offices have already indicated that they're going to ignore it, that they are going to rely on the report, which was government report done by the very same departments that are being investigated. So it is really unfortunate that a ruling party in a democratic government pushing constitutional democracy within which the Public Protector's Office is created should speak in those kind of languages. It is very unfortunate.
The timing of the report, can that be questioned? Do you think it's deliberately released just before the elections, or is it just a coincidence?
No, I think it is a process. The Public Protectors had already really released, as it were, draft report, but it was given as per procedure to the various people who are affected in this regard. I think the various ministers and departments, and also to the presidency, to be able, President Jacob Zuma himself, because he is involved. It is his home, private home, that is under investigation. And to that extent, I think time was to be given for comments and for the final report to be prepared and be done. Mind you that the Constitution it's quite clear under Section 237 that those who perform constitutional obligations have to do so diligently and without delay. And from that point of view, I think it hasn't been delayed, and it shouldn't be delayed.
What do you expect to come out of the report tomorrow, Professor?
A lot is already in the public domain. I don't think that it is going to be, a whole new revelations that we haven't been subjected to. I think one of them is basically that there are departments, especially public works, that has the responsibility to deal with state buildings and government buildings and so on, is taking the center stage. But there are other departments that have also contributed to that amount, which you have mentioned, to about 206, 208 million rands that have been used in a private home. Obviously, the security sector have also indicated that part of it is just to make sure that the president is secure. But here we are dealing with a president who has official houses while he's a president. He goes home, obviously, like everyone else, and there ought to be security. So it is not as if the president lives in Nkandla on a day-to-day basis. He visits there now and then. And from that point of view, even part of his family, some live elsewhere and not at Nkandla on a permanent basis. To spend public money there, the whole question about public finance management of the various departments involved have already emerged and I think are very questionable. Of course, there are other matters. Why was that home declared to be a key point, a national key point, when we know that the homes of the other presidents have not been categorized as such? So there's a whole lot of questions that needs to be asked here. It is abuse of power and misuse of public resources.
Professor, thank you very much for joining us. That is Professor Shadrack Guto, who is a political and legal analyst at UNISA, giving us, the preview to the release of the long-awaited Nkandla report that is due tomorrow. Now, on Friday, A-list South African celebrities and top fashion designers will join forces to design and model unique creations to raise funds for patients with life-threatening illnesses. Our producer, Katrine Milan, has more.
Well, thank you, Eben, and welcome to the show from my side. This Human Rights Day, local celebrities and top fashion designers will take to the Melrose Arch High Street catwalk for Hospice Wits to raise funds for patients with life-threatening illness. Showing their support for this worthy cause, stars of screen and TV, sporting heroes, musicians and other South African icons will walk the ramp. In studio today, we are joined by Joy Ruwodo, Marketing Manager at Hospice Wits, to tell us more about the events and the details. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Katrine. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Let's just start off with the show on Friday. Can you give us the details, who, what, where, when?
Okay, the show is starting at 7 o'clock on the Melrose Arch High Street. It's going to be great fun. The street will be blocked off, so everything is about the fashion show on Friday evening. We are advising people to start arriving at 5:30 for registration. Tickets are available on web tickets. And basically, we have 100 of South Africa's celebrities modeling. They're doing this for Hospice Wits, for us to help to raise funds. And Melrose Arch has been amazing. They've given us the venue and they've supported the event in a big way. We've got everybody who's participating on the day actually doing it just because they're giving back. So people like Jan Milan, who are producing the show, all the celebrities, not a single person is billing a cent for this event. So everything that happens on Friday is about raising funds for us to be able to take care of our patients.
Now, the funds, exactly where will this go?
So what we do, maybe if I can just talk a little bit about Hospice Wits, we take care of patients that have been diagnosed with life-threatening illnesses. Examples of that are HIV and AIDS, cancer, organ failure. And what we do is we have a team, a multifaceted team of doctors, of psychologists, spiritual counselors, and home care nurses that take care of patients either one of two ways. They do it either in our inpatient units. We have one in Houghton and another one in Soweto, or they do it through our home-based care program, which is the bulk of the work that we do. So we're looking at all elements related to the illness. It's not just the physical issues, but it's also the psychosocial and the spiritual related issues. So this whole combination of a team goes and assists the patient, and also we look at the family and what they're going through, because no one is ever prepared for dealing with your loved one having a terminal illness. So we're assisting them to come to terms with it and to be able to live life for as long as that life is available. And it's a quality life. We're managing pain and symptoms, and we're ensuring that they psychosocially and mentally are prepared and able to carry on.
Now, it's the second year that you guys are hosting this event. Tell us about last year. We had photos up about last year's event. How's it going to be different this year?
It's going to be different because we're trying to have... Last year we had amazing celebrities. And so we don't want to have the exact same celebrities in each year, year after year. So we're trying to broaden the celebrities that we have and look at more categories. Last year, we had Natalie du Toit there, but we want to have a lot more sporting celebrities. So we have people like Matthew Booth. Judith Sepuma was there last year. She's going to be there again. Mikasa is going to be there. So it's a bunch of amazing individuals that are coming together just to do this for Hospice Vets.
Can you tell us a bit more about the designers? All the famous names that are going to be there?
Everybody's famous who's involved in this show. So we've got people like David Tlale, we've got Gerrit Johan Coetzee, JJ Skuman, Marianne Fassler. The list goes on and on. So this really, for fashion events, I think is where everybody wants to be. They should be there.
Great. Then just quickly, you guys are very big on social media as well this year. Can you tell us hashtags to follow? What should we be looking out for on social media?
Hashtag is NWTS, which is the acronym for Night with the Stars. So hashtag NWTS. Last year the event trended. We expect that it will trend again this year. And then our Facebook is Hospice Vets.
Okay, great. And then just to recap, just who, what, when, where, people who want to get involved, how can they get involved?
We'd encourage all people to come. It's a holiday. It's a public holiday. It's Human Rights Day. So we're saying to people, show your human side on Human Rights Day. Come and be involved. Come and watch. You can get your tickets, obviously, on web tickets. I would advise people to not wait and hope to get them on the day because they're selling out quickly. Tickets are available for 250 Rand and for 350 Rand for VIP. It's going to be an incredible event.
Great. Joy, thank you so much for joining us. And that was Joy Rewardo from the marketing manager from Hospice Vets. And more of this event is available on our Facebook page. You can just go click on the link there and it will take you straight to all of the details. Eben, back to you.
Well, thank you, Katrin. Nice to see that I wasn't invited to be one of the models for this thing. But anyhow, let's take a look at some of your comments on social media. Tumelo Machojo says, have anyone checked Waterkloof for the Waterkloof, I suppose, for Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 plane? Could be there. Could be anywhere. We don't know where the plane is. Mduduzi Dlamini says, we can fly to the moon and space and back, yet we can't find an earthbound aeroplane the size of a small mountain with loved ones of others, says Mduduzi. Jenny Freem says, wouldn't it be wonderful if all the passengers on MH370 were found alive? Modern miracle, if it happens. We hope and believe in miracles, Jenny. Sir Tinashe says, the disappearance of flight MH370 will undoubtedly be among the biggest mysteries, conspiracies of the century amongst the assassination of JFK. Well, that wasn't a conspiracy. He was shot by the CIA. Claire Nelson says, 26 countries now hunt for a missing plane, if only international cooperation for greater good was always this way. Well, keep it coming at SABC Newsroom. We love your comments. We'd love to have a bit of fun with it, interact with it at SABC Newsroom. That's where we are, sabc.co.za/news. That's where you get all the updates all of the time. And the Newsroom's got a great Facebook page where you can watch all the clips back. You can interact with the clips, you can leave us your comments, you can even leave us, well, photos, pictures, whatever it is you like. Well, are we going to take a short break now and then go to the court, or we're going straight there? That's right, we're taking a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll be going to the North Gauteng High Court for day 12 of the Oscar trial.
It's incredible how this cup of coffee got here.
Explain.
Well, the farmer has to know when it's going to rain. The buyer needs to know when to buy. The trucks when to collect. For that, you need a satellite to talk to the ships and the factories.
So where's the coffee in all this?
I don't know, in a big warehouse somewhere. Which has to make sure that every farmer gets paid in the right currency.
So who does all of that?
Who knows?
Zoom into Africa. This is Burkina Faso. The president is Mr. Blaise Compaoré. Burkina Faso got independent from France on 5th August 1960. The population is more than 17 million people. One of Burkina Faso's major languages spoken is French. Monetary unit is CFA.
Sasol says it's still ready and waiting for government to give the green light to fracking. Sasol avoided Eskom's woes because it makes more than 70% of its own energy. The ECB left interest rates unchanged at a record low of 0.25%. The ECB also failed to suspend weekly operations to soak up money it spent on sovereign bonds at the height of the Eurozone debt crisis, known as sterilisation.
That's business news, weekdays at 8 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. Here with Newsroom here on SABC News. We're about to go to the High Court, but let's just take a quick look at the news headlines. Defence advocate Barry Roux will continue to probe police photographer Barend van Staden when the Oscar Pistorius murder trial resumes in Pretoria this morning. Yesterday, Roux questioned van Staden about the selection of photographs he took of the scene at the Blade Runner's residence following the death of Reeva Steenkamp last year. 6 men accused of killing 2 people in gang violence on the Cape Flats on Friday night will appear again in court next Monday. Yesterday, the suspects appeared briefly in camera as 2 of them are minors, aged 16 and 17. Their case was postponed for further investigation. A 5-year-old boy wounded during the shooting remains in a critical condition at the Red Cross Children's Hospital. And lawyers for the families of the deceased Marikana miners will this morning argue against a police application for a witness being referred to as Mr. X to present evidence in camera at the Marikana Commission of inquiry. The crucial witness claims he was among protesting miners that attacked NUM officers and also hacked 2 security guards to death during the unrest in 2012. Now, the case is, well, the court is not in session yet, but we'll carry on with the news and see when they get up. We'll go there straight away. The case of 6 men accused of killing 2 people in gang violence on the Cape Flats on Friday night has been postponed to next Monday for further investigation. The suspects appeared briefly in camera at the Wynberg Magistrates Court as 2 of them are minors aged 16 and 17. A 5-year-old boy wounded during the shooting remains in a critical condition at the Red Cross Children's Hospital.
Last Friday, a 59-year-old bystander was killed. An 18-year-old died in hospital later.
I saw her die and she wasn't a gangster. She wasn't related to all the stuff. It's painful for all of us.
That wasn't a nice experience to see someone die like that. 18-year-old, I mean, he's still a child.
Meanwhile, a 5-year-old, also caught in the crossfire, is still fighting for his life in hospital. He was shot in the back of the neck.
I'm traumatized. This is my grandson. He was just turned 5 years old in December month. And he's still struggling with his life. And it's bad enough. I don't know how I'm going to cope with the whole situation. It's bad.
Residents say the situation is worsening. Youngsters caught in this vicious cycle. With the promise of easy money, many turn to gangs. Nomoto Solwandle, SABC News, Cape Town.
The Farnham Commission of Inquiry has been asked if a police witness only identified as Mr X can testify from a remote location. Evidence leader Kameshni Pele has supported the application to have him testify in camera for security reasons. Sesi Baloy for the South African Police Service earlier submitted the application for the crucial witness to testify via a video link. Baloy says his safety would be in grave danger if his identity were revealed or published. She says the Commission has the authority to make such special arrangements for a particular witness. The man, identified as Mr X, was apparently part of a group of protesting miners that underwent a ritual at Marikana that included the burning of sheep on the night of August 11, 2012. The rituals were in preparation for a confrontation with police, according to documents in the SAPS application. He would testify about the killing and intimidation of Lonmin employees who were unwilling to take part in the violent strike. Metal Workers Union Numsa says it's all systems go for its one-day national strike tomorrow. The union says the strike is the first of many to follow against policies that are unfriendly to workers.
Numsa says it's expecting almost 500,000 people at its marches across the country. It says civil society groups and all the 8 COSATU unions that have supported its fight against the Labour Federation will join in. The union wants the scrapping of the employment tax incentive scheme. Government says the scheme will encourage companies to employ young, inexperienced graduates. But Numsa maintains the initiative is simply an attack on existing jobs.
As we speak, across various sectors, as a result of this, we've been served with Section 189. We can give you a long list of many companies that have now said they want to embark on retrenchment, and they won't be found in court that the purpose was to displace old workers. They will basically give a very solid motivation which qualifies them to retrench. Our operations are being affected negatively. We've got a global crisis of capitalism. We're restructuring. Down the line, they will displace existing jobs and replace them with young people.
Numsa argues that government bypassed NEDLAC, where business, government and labour meet, in fast-tracking the Employment Tax Incentive Act. Numsa insists government can create more jobs if it increases import tariffs to protect local manufacturers. It also wants the Reserve Bank to target job creation instead of price stability or inflation. Liuta Motlogelwa, SABC News, Johannesburg.
The new Madagascan president says the future of his exiled predecessor, Mark Ravalomanana, will be determined by the former president's feelings of patriotism. President Harajuana Rimampianen was speaking to the press in New York. He had talks with the UN Secretary General ahead of an investment visit in Washington later this week.
With the country being re-welcomed into the international fold, the new president is on a charm offensive.
I believe that rebuilding a country like Madagascar will require the input of foreign investors. So for this reason, it's entirely normal that I should, with my government, create an environment which would be conducive to foreign investment.
We asked about national reconciliation and the future role of the exiled former leader in South Africa.
I'm not really focused on Mr. Ravalomanana, because I've always said that my priority today are the 20 million inhabitants of Madagascar. I have to start working to improve the fate of these 20 million Madagascar citizens. One person might be important, yes, but I believe that if he could contribute to backing me, to backing the 20 million inhabitants of our country, this would be the most important thing.
2 months since assuming the presidency, he has yet to appoint a prime minister to form a new government.
We also asked the president if his focus would be on a government of national unity, given the stark divides that have defined Madagascar's political landscape over the last 5 years. He said there was a need to remedy and heal the scars of the past, while promising to advocate openness within the framework of setting up the next government. Shervin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.
Malaysian authorities say they think the co-pilot of the missing aircraft spoke the last words to ground controllers before the plane disappeared. However, it's not clear if the words "all right, good night" were uttered before or after one of the plane's tracking devices was switched off. The wait continues for the families of those missing. They are demanding answers from Malaysia Airlines and the country's government. Most of the 239 passengers on board were Chinese. Malaysian investigators are going through the backgrounds of the pilots, crew and ground staff who worked on the missing plane looking for clues. No trace of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 has been found since it vanished on March the 8th. Investigators are increasingly convinced it was diverted perhaps thousands of kilometers off course by someone with deep knowledge of the Boeing 777-200ER and commercial navigation. A search of unprecedented scale involving 26 countries is underway. Well, let's take a quick look at what you are talking about on social media. Once again, we're still waiting for the court to go into session, the North Gauteng High Court, that is, for day 12 of Oscar Pistorius. Smooch says, so Tuli Madonsela is going to release the Nkandla report tomorrow. I just wonder what the findings are. I think the whole country is wondering what her findings are. Now we'll see what comes out of that one tomorrow. ANC moves SA forward. ANC Youth says some of you hate our president so much you will swear you all pray in Tuli Madonsela's name. Hands off both Tuli and Msholozi. And then Sikoli says Tuli Madonsela or Barry Roo. I go with the former. Shame, he says. Dumisani Klope says, after investigating in Nkandla, Tuli Madonsela can expect more criticism from all and sundry. And then Fundile Nyati says, why are government ministers and other ruling party people jumping up and down on the eve of the release of the Nkandla report? Do they have inside info? Okay, I've got some news update for you. Barry Roo and Gerinel, they are in chambers at the moment with the presiding judge. That's why the session is being delayed at the moment. We'll continue with our rolling broadcast here until matters get underway in court, and we'll cross there straight away. Of course, at SABC Newsroom, that's where you can send your contributions to this very show. But let's move on to another top story. Oh no, we're going to take a short commercial break. Hopefully when we come back, day 12 in the North Gauteng High Court will be underway.
Take a pinch of alpha, that's for fun. Stir it up. After that, some fidelity, titty-dum. Yeah, drink a little magic vino too. Zippity-dee-dee. Jump it up. After that, jump out, 'cause I'm a cedar. Life is a jalapeno. When you sapity-do. In a world of imagination, you...
Remember when the world was full of wonder and you felt excited about banking? It's time to feel like that again. The new Standard Bank app is going to change banking as we know it and put the joy back into managing your finances. When last did you feel this excited about banking?
Get the Samsung Galaxy S4 from Telkom with a massive 5 gigs data, 100 included minutes and free uncapped Wi-Fi for just $369 per month on SA's best mobile broadband network. Rethink possibilities. Call, click, go to a Telkom store. Telkom.
Zoom into Africa. This is Burundi. The president is Mr. Pierre Nkurunziza. Burundi got independent from Belgium on 1st July in 1962. The population is more than 8 million people. One of Burundi's major languages spoken is French. Monetary unit is Burundi franc. Zoom into Africa. This is Burundi. The president is Mr. Pierre Nkurunziza. Burundi got independent from Belgium on 1st July in 1962. The population is more than 8 million people. One of Burundi's major languages spoken is French. Monetary unit is Burundi franc.
Bopelon Place of Hope showcases stories that change lives, people who rise above self. We travel around Africa bringing you untold stories of individual success and triumph. We uncover exactly what it takes to be Africa's very own unsung hero. Join me, Pule Mulebatsi, Saturdays at 5:30 for your weekly dose of inspiration on Bopelong, a place of hope on SABC News.
Why is it that we spend more on education but get less in return?
I would like him to tell us about what they have done in Khayelitsha.
The pass rate at school serving poor communities has gone up from 57% to 73%.
We have children in our school at grade 9 who cannot read, and that must be a severe indictment on both parties.
What we should be focusing on is how to remedy the situation.
Catch the election debates on SAFM, SABC News Channel and SABC 1, Sundays at 6 p.m.
Sasol says it's still ready and waiting for government to give the green light to fracking. Sasol avoided Eskom's woes because it makes more than 70% of its own energy. The ECB left interest rates unchanged at a record low of 0.25%. The ECB also failed to suspend weekly operations to soak up money it spent on sovereign bonds at the height of the Eurozone debt crisis, known as sterilisation.
That's business news, weekdays at 8 p.m. on SABC News.
Hello and welcome to Network. My name is Sphumelele Zondi.
Currently, we've got 3 apps that we've developed: the Q Marshall app, a commuter app, and a taxi association app.
The Chinese e-commerce company Alibaba Group Holding has decided to pursue an IPO in New York. Safaricom wants to introduce M-Pesa to Kenya's popular matatu industry. This will enable commuters to pay taxi fares using mobile money.
That's Network, Sundays, 7:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back to Newsroom. Well, news from the court is that, matters are slightly delayed this morning because Barry Roo for the defence and Harry Null, the prosecutor in this case, they are meeting with the judge in chambers for, a matter that is still unknown, and we'll keep you posted and keep you updated as to what it is and how that develops. But let's, do we have some developments? There's somebody tweeting something? There we go. Crisel, our very own Criselda Lewis from inside of the court is tweeting. The Pistorius family seems to be reaching out to June Steenkamp. Oscar Pistorius' uncle is now the latest to interact with her. Hashtag SABC News. Well, that's not the reason why the court is delayed this morning, but that's some of the news coming from inside the court. In the Busi Khadebe says, in the meantime, a woman in the public gallery has gone to ask Roo for his autograph. Isn't that just pathetic? And Busi Khadebe again says, court is 10 minutes behind schedule. As I told you a little bit earlier, that matters are delayed this morning because Barry Roo and Kherunel are in chambers with the presiding judge in this case. Are we closing? Well, that's where we're going to leave it today. It seems as if matters are about to get underway in the High Court, but we'll keep you posted, we'll let you know how that develops on this very channel. This is Newsroom, broadcast live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Thank you for watching. Good morning.
Zoom into Africa. This is Burundi. The president is Mr. Pierre Nkurunziza. Burundi got independent from Belgium on 1st July in 1962. The population is more than 8 million people, one of